These are some of the craziest times Rocket League players were caught cheating. And first up on the list, we have none other than Zen. In February of 2022, Zen was banned from all Psyonix-operated tournaments for an entire year because he illegally subbed into the RLCS X Fall Europe Regional while he was still underage and not a registered player on the team. Back then, in order to be eligible to play in RLCS, you had to be 15 years old, and Zen was only 14. And the worst part about this situation is that Psyonix only informed him of his suspension 11 days before his 15th birthday. And because he got caught, Psyonix ended up banning him for a full year, which meant even though he was about to meet the required age to play in RLCS, he still had to wait a full year to officially make his debut. But how did this happen? During the fall split, pro player Seiko was on a team called Space Knights with Gaspo and Azu. They competed in the first fall regional qualifier and even made it to the day 3 of the event. However, it was later discovered that they illegally substituted a 14-year-old prodigy by the name of Zen. Seiko would later put out an explanation going over the situation, and he wrote that they had learned of a schedule change which did not allow one of his teammates to compete in the tournament. So instead of forfeiting, they decided to have someone else play on his account, saying they didn't expect to make it as far as they did. He also publicly apologized to all the teams they faced on day 3 of the tournament, and all players, including Seiko and Zen, were suspended from competing in RLCS. But even during Zen's suspension, he managed to draw a crazy amount of attention to himself by competing in 1v1 show matches, quickly becoming the most hyped up prodigy in the history of the game. After the ban was lifted, he immediately went on to win 3 regional tournaments, an international major, and of course, the World Championship, making his team Vitality the first org to ever win the RLCS twice. And next up on the list of cheaters that got caught, it might surprise you because this is the only time it's ever happened in Rocket League. Team Esper was an Australian Rocket League team which competed in the Oceanic division of RLCS, and in April of 2020, they played in a best-of-5 series against another team by the name of Fury. The result of this series would determine who would make the upcoming playoffs, so it was a very high-stakes series with a lot on the line for both teams. It went on to get super intense as Team Esper won the first 2 games and were about to clean sweep Fury, but Fury brought it back and won the next 2 games, taking it to a Game 5. However, immediately on the kickoff, something was wrong. Team Esper was purposefully throwing the match, driving in circles, and flailing around as if they were bronze players. Because of this, all players were dropped from their org, and 2 of the players, Frenzy and Delusion, were suspended for a year from RLCS tournaments, and they had to forfeit their prize money from that series. But why would Team Esper sabotage their chances at making the playoffs? Well, the structure of the RLCS is designed in a way that you have to win a certain amount of games in order to advance into the playoffs, which meant in this series, Team Esper had to beat Fury either 3-0 or 3-1. So when Fury had won only 2 games and taken it to Game 5, Team Esper no longer had a chance of making it to the playoffs even if they won the final match. And because of this, they decided to let Fury win by throwing the match and letting them advance to the playoffs instead. And at first the casters were super confused on what was happening, but they quickly put 2 and 2 together and figured it out.
Here's the kickoff. Only 5 minutes decided Delusion. But it's looking like they're giving the win to Fury. I'm not sure if this is allowed.
Next on the list, we have the first introduction of cheating with AI. In late 2022 and early 2023, players reportedly encountered opponents exhibiting near perfect ball control and inhumane precision in their movements. After some investigation into these robot-like opponents, it was found that some players were using AI bots to play for them in their ranked games. The most famous example of this is the bot Nexto. The most famous example of this is the bot Nexto, which at the time was around GC level. Players could simply let this bot play on their account and then go to sleep and wake up at the rank of Grand Champ, which normally would take over 2,000 hours of gameplay to achieve. This was also paired with DDoS attacks, which allowed players using these cheats to not only hit SSL, but also to break world records, as one of the players was able to reach over 3,000 MMR in 2s, which was something that had never been done before in Rocket Rocket League. Thankfully, Psyonix quickly responded to this with a ban wave and an anti-cheat system, sparking some of the creators of these cheats to come up with even greater and more undetectable bots. And a couple months later, we saw the first invisible cheat in ranked matches. The opponent would be completely invisible, which meant winning was basically impossible, as the ball would essentially move by itself on the screen.
This is horrible. Okay, right, yeah, this is... Okay, this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be a lot harder than I thought, for sure.
And during this time, it seemed like Rocket League cheats were only getting worse and worse each day, and eventually it could cause the game to be entirely unplayable. But for the first time in over 10 years of the game being released, Psyonix added a report system for cheating. Prior to this, you couldn't even report somebody for cheating in game, as it was thought to be impossible. Next up on the list, we have a cheat that's even crazier because it actually ended up with a professional player being suspended twice and then completely banned from ever playing Rocket League again. In 2017, pro player Corrupt was on a team by the name of Naventic with his teammates King Wizard and Double. This team ended up breaking the rules in a similar situation to Zen, where pro player Atomic illegally substituted on the team Naventic during an RLCS tournament. Even though Atomic is now one of the best professional players in the world, at the time he wasn't even 15, which meant he couldn't be registered to an esports team. And because of this, all players on the team received a ban for a full year. However, this is where the story gets even crazier, because one of the players on Naventic, Corrupt, decided it would be a good idea during his suspension to boost other players in exchange for money. And if you don't know what boosting is, it's essentially playing on somebody else's account in order to give them a higher rank. And Corrupt wasn't exactly hiding it, since he would constantly put out tweets with his prices for boosting each rank, which unfortunately I can't even show you because his Twitter has been deleted. But worst of all, Corrupt would actually stream himself on Twitch boosting his viewers for money. He would go on to get away with it for months and months, even while competing in RLCS. And this violated not only Rocket League's rules, but it also went against Twitch TOS, which resulted in his Twitch account being removed from the platform. And in terms of his Rocket League career, he went on to get completely banned from the game entirely, meaning he couldn't even play on his own account. However, he did still play on other accounts and continued to boost players for money until he was deplatformed everywhere. Corrupt remains as the only pro player to receive not only 2 bans, but as the only player to be disallowed from ever playing Rocket League again. And next on the list, we have one that actually broke the game. Recently, a hack was discovered that would allow you to demo your opponents with 100% success. And you might be wondering, how is this even possible? Well, these cheaters discovered a way to somehow perfectly mimic the movements of a car in front of theirs, meaning essentially they would track their opponents perfectly until they were demoed. As you can see from the clip, this kind of reaction time is definitely not human. And if that isn't conclusive enough, the cheater in this clip literally looks at his reverse cam and still perfectly tracks the opponent in front of him. Whether or not this has been fixed by Psyonix is still not really known, but this kind of cheat is extremely hard to detect, and it might have even been used against you without you noticing. And when you look up this player on Rocket League Tracker, you'll even find out that he was boosted to SSL, so who knows, maybe it was even the pro player Corrupt somehow still playing on a different account. Worst of all, even though this guy is blatantly cheating in champ lobbies, he actually still ends up losing the game. And come on, if you can't even win with hacks, then maybe this isn't the game for you. But anyways, that's the end of the video. Comment down below what you think about these cheats, and remember to subscribe if you made it all the way to the end.